What's happening, everybody? This is Todd Wilson with another episode of Elevate Your Game. Today we have father, husband, coach, basketball executive, I like to call him. He knows a little bit of, he's like an encyclopedia for basketball, and all around good man, Mr. Ryan Moore.
Appreciate it, my
Welcome
man.
to the
Good
show.
to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
We love to start this show off with the Wall of Hoop movies.
I know, I've been looking. You told me.
Favorite hoop movie of all time and why? There's a couple not up there, but Space Jam 2, you know.
I'm gonna stick with what's on the wall, so I don't take too long to answer. But I just from a nostalgia and when the game was still pure for me, childhood, I'm gonna have to go with Hoosiers. Just with sitting with my dad on the couch on a Sunday afternoon. Hoosiers was on when whatever point the movie was on, we were in at that point. Watching and all the way through the state championship. So Hoosiers, but there's definitely, above the rim, loving basketball, definitely on the short list.
Yeah, no, it's really tough because, like you said, when one of those movies comes on while you're watching TV, you're probably going to watch it.
You're invested, absolutely.
I think they need to remake Hoosiers, a modern day Hoosiers. I know you can't remake it, and I don't want it like the new White Man Can't Jump, but like, because I think this younger generation has no idea about Hoosiers and what it meant to basketball at the time.
Well, it's dated now, and there's certainly probably teams out there you could pick to, every underdog team says, we're Hoosiers, and now kids don't even, you got to put it on the bus when you're taking that long playoff trip. But there's got to be teams out there you could pick.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be pretty cool. So, we'll hop right in. So, when did you fall in love with basketball?
Really early on. I didn't come from a basketball family. We turned into a basketball family, but my parents were from the Midwest. Dad was a football guy. And then when we moved to California, I was in about third, fourth grade, started playing local park and rec. Nothing like what kids do now in third or fourth grade. Right. But I remember my dad like volunteering to be an assistant on the team, and originally it was just a way to hang out with my dad. And then I didn't realize it then, but my dad was like going to the library at night and like reading like Coaching 101 by like Dean Smith and the Carolina Break, and then getting into the Kansas Break and the box sets and all that, and just spent more and more time doing that, and fell in love with it that way.
Man, wow. And so from there, when did it start getting serious for you?
Probably about seventh grade when I realized like, hey, okay, baseball's cool, flag football was cool, but this is what I enjoy working on, not just like those like games were cool, but I didn't enjoy the process. I didn't enjoy as much, getting in the cages for baseball wasn't as fun for me as going and getting up shots or going and playing at the park and or wherever it was. And so probably about seventh grade when I realized.
Who was your skills trainer then?
Yeah, exactly. It was called the metal rim with the chain net and the asphalt surface. So.
Yeah, where about did you exactly grow up?
Thousand Oaks.
Thousand Oaks, okay.
Thousand Oaks.
TO, okay. And so, what was the basketball scene? I know, so AAU was around, right? And you had the park and rec. When you got to middle school, you got serious about it. How serious was basketball in the area at the time?
It was getting more serious. I think I look back on it now, and we were like the very, very beginning of. AAU was around, but you had to try out and be good to make an AAU team, and I was not that guy. Mm-hmm. I just loved to play, loved to be around, loved to work. So there wasn't a complete year-round opportunity at that time for it, besides playing pickup. You played park and rec and you played for your school team and you did this and you did that, but there wasn't an AAU tournament every weekend. It was just the beginning of, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, of every dad having their own AAU team. Mm-hmm. And so a couple guys from Thousand Oaks, we got a team together and played in the AR. It was a big deal that we went down to North Hollywood and played in the ARC League, and that was a whole new level of basketball for us. And it's funny, my dad still laughs about it. Like on Halloween one year in seventh grade, I don't remember what the scores, but it had to be like 76-12. We just got smashed. And then the next year we came back, and they told us we beat the same team. There's no way it was the same team. There might have been two of the same guys, but for us to see a bigger world basketball vision at that point was a big deal.
Yeah. So your dad was coaching you on that team as
My
well?
dad was an assistant the whole way through. My dad just kind of, he didn't pretend to know more than he did, didn't try to do too much, but just always made sure we had an avenue to pursue, that Andrew and I had an avenue to pursue what we were passionate about.
That's cool. And then so going on to high school, right? So this is probably where it gets more serious from that time. So what high school did you go to? What was that experience like? And
So growing up in Thousand Oaks, always thought I'd go to Thousand Oaks High School. Really strong program at the time. You know, those guys were like, Chris Lowell had gone to Air Force out of there. Jason Hartman had gone to Washington. The bunch of guys had gone to, you know, some lower level stuff, and those guys were like NBA stars to us, you know, at the time. And so thought I would go to TO High. Ed Chevalier was the coach, who did a great job there, and then eventually did a great job at Oak Park after that. But my mom is a big believer in Catholic school, and she was a Catholic school teacher for a number of years, and not really knowing that dynamic at that age, my mom was dead set. She did her homework, and this is, you know, pre-internet days, sad to say, but she did this, that, and we were going to Crespi. That was where she was very passionate about us going, and I thank God that it worked out that way. It ended up being the best thing for me, but it was a change. I was the only one of my friends that went there, which I think kids today are a little more used to, like, hey, I'm going to go over here because it's best for me in this situation. My parents, it was like, look, we know Coach a little bit. Coach Arena's a good guy, but really we're sending you there for so many other reasons. It's your job to make basketball work. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, great. But we're sending you there for a lot of other reasons besides basketball.
is Drew older or younger?
Drew's younger.
He's younger.
He
Okay,
just
so
acts older.
You guys both look old. So no. So how much younger? How many years?
3 years.
So okay,
3 years.
so you're a senior, he's a freshman.
Yeah, that
eventually,
was an
okay.
interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So going into Crespi as a freshman, and so you know this is back in the day. So I'm assuming you went freshman JV varsity. Mm-hmm. Yep, classic. Develop your way up to.
And I wasn't very good. Like so, like I had to work my butt off. Like I was good on the freshman team, and then you know, but that's, you know, like we tell guys all the time, that's, you're only competing against one class, and then wasn't as good on the JV team. Wasn't as skilled, I should say, on the JV team, and you're competing against more guys. And varsity ended up having some fun and being able to do some things by the time I was a senior. But junior year, sat on the end of that bench at the varsity a lot, and had to learn, and you know, the process was just so much more valued at that time, or maybe not. Maybe it's valued. Respected. There was no skipping steps. There was no, well, I'm not playing as much, I'm out. Right. You know, or I know I can play more over here. And at least with, you know, within schools, within CIF, and then especially within our household, like there was no talk of transferring. Like Andrew got into it a little bit before his senior year. Like my parents entertained the conversation about that much. But that was a whole different dynamic, and you know, obviously he stayed one CF Player of the Year, ended up coming back as a coach, on and on and on. Mm-hmm. I think they just entertained it to let Andrew vent, not that they were ever really going to move him out of a school they chose. Right.
So what was your thing in high school? So like you said, you had to work for everything. You got some freedom and some you know, opportunities to play as a senior. What was your dynamic on the court, and what were your goals then? Were you thinking NBA? Like, were you thinking?
I mean, I thought NBA. I was probably crazy. Like, I
mean, we all are, right?
I mean, when I say I thought it wasn't I have to do this, or I got to do this, or I mean, I would go to, you know, back in the days, I was going to the pumps camp. Yeah. And you would see guys that you knew, guys that ended up playing in the NBA. I mean, I remember, interestingly enough, you know, Carlos Boozer and Matt Barnes was like the headliner showdown when their teams were going to play when I was at pump camp, and that was a big deal. And I was at least intelligent enough in high school to look at their games and their physical stature and their abilities and go, I'm not that. Right. But what I did want to do was play college basketball, and I knew I was capable of doing it at a certain level. I did not, you know, I was waiting for Coach K to call, or I was hoping Coach K would call, but I wasn't waiting. You know, and talked to some small schools, some NAI schools, some D3 schools, and ended up playing at at a really small NAIA school and having a fun time. But did I think NBA? Probably more than I should admit, but
No, and I say that to say that you still found a route to go play at the next level, right? And so, our goals and our ambitions push us to a certain level, right? We all want to be in the NBA, but it pushed you and you're like, I can still play in college though, because you put the work in and have that experience, right? And so what school did you end up playing at?
the California Maritime Academy,
Oh, nice.
up in Vallejo, right outside of Oakland.
Okay. And so
It's a totally different program. They're doing they're doing a great job up there. Coach Rooney reshaped it several years ago. They've changed colors. They've built a new gym. They've built a new facility. Like
full rebrand.
Yeah, when we were there, it was like 11 guys, just trying to figure out how to make it work. And we had a former D1 assistant, Dan Dion, who was our head coach, who I look back on, and that's really where I was taught the game as a player. And I think he was incredibly frustrated with me at several points, rightfully so. But he was an amazing man. And then when it came time, maybe playing career is not where it is. He really, really went out of his way to make sure I was working summer camps. This is back when getting into coaching was, you had to, NCAA rules were different and all that. He got me working college camps, connected with the right guys. There was nobody he wouldn't call for me. And I really always appreciated that approach, even though I wasn't going to play for him anymore. He was the one encouraging me, like, you probably need to take a different path here. And just an awesome man, very incredibly helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you realize that you were going to be a coach? Or was it around the same time, or?
I think in high school I knew I wanted to coach.
Okay.
I knew there was a way to stay involved in the game way longer than, when the ball stops bouncing. There's a way more opportunities in the game. And so in high school I knew I wanted to coach. I wasn't sure what level, where, or how, or anything, but I knew I wanted to coach. Gotcha. Really pretty early on.
Did you take any? Were you like tactically doing things like, hey, let me see what coach is doing during this game, and started taking that on, or?
Those that know me, I'm not afraid of strong opinion, to have a strong opinion, and that probably was one of the positive things that Crespi developed in me as a young man, was to be able to articulate that opinion and do it in a respectful manner. Sometimes basketball wise, because that was my passion, it wasn't always it's okay to disagree with your coach. It's okay to want a different play drawn. It's okay to want a different lineup in there. It's body language matters, and demeanor matters, and how and when matters, and tone matter, and all that stuff. And that's, sometimes you learn some tough lessons by doing that the wrong way. But I definitely got to watch a lot of things. And then, I was just always in a gym playing pickup or something, so I had access to guys that were just starting their coaching career, a little bit older than I was, and all that, and just hanging out, hearing them talk about, oh, we got to go to summer league tonight, or oh, we got workouts in the morning, or oh, we got this, and kind of just eavesdropping maybe more than I was admitting at the time.
Yeah, I want to take two pieces here that you kind of touched on. I want to dive deeper because I think it's important. Is how do you approach your coach when you do disagree? Because I don't think kids know how to do that nowadays. I don't think parents know how to do that nowadays. So for kids, for players, when is the right time? What is the right tone? How would you want to be, communicated with that they disagree with you?
I think the old school instant answer is, we all have the 24-hour rule, like especially after a tough loss, or give us 24 hours. But really, when I say that, I don't even mean 24 hours. Just give them till the next morning. Like, and then it's how, and it's, tone is very important. I've had parents wait that respected time. I've had parents try to jump the process. We're all emotional in that situation, and I think you and I have talked about this. As a father now, I understand it a little bit more every day. I don't know that I ever want to coach my two sons, because I want to be able to be their biggest fan, and I want to be, I love them more than anybody, and that's, I understand that parents love their kids more than anybody. And so if we're coming from that place, we can move forward. If it's how can they do it? There needs to be some time, there needs to be some space, and whatever your coach has established as appropriate protocol. Email to set up a meeting, text or phone call, in person, whatever, Zoom. Some people are comfortable doing Zoom, and kind of combining it these days. Whatever their coach has set up as appropriate protocols, it's important to follow those, because when you get outside the established protocols, now it all heck can break loose pretty quickly. Yeah. So, but understanding that you're both coming from a positive place, and we're not going to discuss other kids because that's not fair. We're not, I wouldn't discuss your kid with another parent. I'm not going to discuss their kid with you. Right. There's a lot more that goes into coaching decisions sometimes than in that emotional moment. And most parents are okay. Clear majority of parents are okay if that time passes a little bit. It's the right after the game stuff that gets intense for everybody. Yep. Because we're all wound up for that 32 minutes in high school, and the buzzer sounds, and that doesn't mean the tension is all right. Sometimes that outlet for that tension is misapplied. So how do they need to do it? They need to be respectful. I think it's always, always, always great, and always ends up the best from what I've seen when the young man or woman can do it first, when they can be their own biggest advocate, and it's not mom or dad fighting for them. Now, that doesn't mean to say mom and dad can't be part of the process, but the player's got to be first, because most times the player knows what's going into that decision. Yes. The player's at practice every day. The player knows the other kids on the team. The player knows whose skill set combines for the best unit at that given moment. So, not that there's never disagreements, but the player needs to be their own biggest advocate first.
100%. I was hoping you would touch on that. that was the moment I was looking for, because these parents are too involved nowadays. Like, my mom never stepped in the gym unless I did something wrong. And she was like, oh, do I need to take him away from this sport in this program? It was the opposite. It's like, no, you better figure it out. And especially at these younger ages, because in college there isn't any of that.
I actually think, I was talking to a buddy the other day, I actually kind of think it's seeping into the college level a little bit, where not completely, but the hardline stance of, I'm not talking to your parents at the college level, I don't know that exists anymore. Now, I don't think it's daily check-ins on text or hey, coach, why didn't so-and-so play last night? Like, I don't think it's quite as pervasive as it is at the high school level. I know it's not, but I don't think the hardline stance in this generation, I think it's filtered up, if you will. I think college coaches more and more are having to maintain relationships beyond the recruiting
so they can
process.
Retain their kid.
Yeah,
transfer.
And some of these NIL deals, parents have to be involved in that. And I just think there's a way more open dialogue than there was 10 years ago, even, maybe less.
Man. So hopping into your coaching career, so it's a two-part. You could let me know how, what was your first coaching opportunity? You did the camps and everything, and real coaching opportunity. And what would you suggest for somebody who knows in high school, like, I'm not going to make it pro, or I'm not going to play past college? How do they start preparing themselves to be a coach even early on in those stages?
I think the biggest thing, I'll answer the second part first, the biggest thing for how you start that process, like just be around basketball, whether it's, I remember I had a notebook and I would watch, like Big Monday was the huge deal, and getting home, and the Big East to the Big Ten to the Big West, ESPN would move their way across the country. You get to watch 3 games. I remember trying to get my homework done, so I was allowed to turn on the TV and maybe catch the end of the Big East game, but definitely catching, late 80s, early 90s, like Fab Five, being able to watch Michigan on TV, Calbert Chaney at Indiana, Jim Jackson at Ohio State. Anyway, all those guys and the great UNLV teams and Santa Barbara teams back then, just watch it and be around it. And the better, like Hubie Brown, like the you pick up on certain announcers. Even Dick Vitale, who, it definitely has a persona with it. But when I was younger, like Dick Vitale, the persona was still there, but he was kind of just out of coaching at that time. And so you were still getting little tidbits, even if it's just terminology, to learn how to speak the language, if you will. So if you're in a room full of coaches, you can contribute at some point, and kind of build a relationship and build a dialogue, I think is important. I don't think kids really watch enough basketball anymore.
Right.
And I think some kids see, like, Irvine, Long Beach State on TV, and I'm not watching that. And that's the best game you can go watch. Like, there's real development that has to occur at those schools. There's no one and dones at those schools. Those coaches are I mean, I'm not saying coaching at any level is better or worse, or whatever, but like those, the Big West, like those guys got to recruit and develop, and they got to ID potential early on. Like they're not recruiting. Not everybody they can recruit can start right away for them. They got a red shirt. They got a plan. They got to do this, and then you see game plans, and you see first half actions and counters in the second half and all that. I think those are the best ones kids, young men and women can watch in terms of that. How did I get in? Working camps. And on my 21st birthday, I'll never forget. He doesn't remember it quite this way, but on my 21st birthday at El Torito, that used to be on Reseda and Ventura, ran into Russell White and his Calabasas coaching staff at the time. And he was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm working a couple camps. I'm doing this. And he said, do you want to coach? And that's kind of my segue into coaching was with Russell White at Calabasas.
Another one. Man, I did not know that.
Yeah, before he became, I don't want to say before he became, he always had it in him, but
before he accomplished all the
before
things
he was famous, if you will, in our little basketball bubble here. So, and then Oaks Christian had just opened and got a chance to go there as an assistant coach. Head coach got let go midway through the season. I was 23 years old, maybe 24, somewhere in there. Was the interim head coach there and coaching kids that weren't much younger than me. Mike Hornbuckle Jr. was a really good player for us that went on to Pepperdine, and just kind of rolled from there. I was too young at Oaks Christian. I didn't know what I didn't know yet, and thought I knew everything. Couldn't tell me at that age that I didn't know it. Learned a lot, built some relationships, and when the interim thing at Oaks Christian didn't work, ended up at Simi Valley with Christian, which is where I really think I really got to grow as a coach. Christian wrapped his arms around me from the first minute and was like, look, I'm going to, open the books. I'm going to open the doors. I'm going to how to fundraise, how to hire a coaching staff, how to run a tournament, how to run a summer league, how to run tryouts, like how to run a parent meeting.
The administration of head coaching.
Yeah, everything before you even get on the court, before you talk about, well, how are we going to play this year? What defense are we going to run? Who's our best players? How do we develop them? Like anything before all that, Christian just, from day one, and Simi has a very strong model for that over the years. This is back when we had 4 levels, freshman, fresh off JV, and varsity at Simi. And so how do we scout? Who's in charge of what? This is still back in this when this first started. This was, it was 8mm tapes on the camcorder, and then.
Are you this old?
I'm ancient. I'm aging like milk too. It's a problem. But yeah, so yeah, with Christian, we had like 3 go bags, like duffel bags with cameras, power strips, extension cords, tripods, everything. And so after the freshman game would end, a freshman coach would go somewhere to scout. Sophomore game would end, they go somewhere to scout. JV game would end, depending on where we were, they may have to go scout that night. And we always had to make sure, we always would come back and meet at Christian's that night, and we always had to make sure that, we had the power strip. And I was like, why do you have a power strip in there? There's outlets. He goes, if we get there late or someone's there first and they're already plugged in, we got to be able to say, hey, can we just plug into the power cord? And he goes, we've had to do it before. We've got 5 people plugged into the power cord, all scouting the same games, and someone would have ran out of batteries if we didn't do that. So just stuff like that you never would have thought of. And this is obviously dated technology now. You don't have to do it quite like that anymore. It's more about who you know and being able to trade film now. But I met some great guys out scouting games, like on off nights and by nights when we would go do that. And you'd be sitting up in the top of the gym. Where do you go? What do you do? And okay, here's my email. I think was a brand new thing at that time. So maybe not that.
Stop
new,
aging us, please stop. You're not that old. Goodness.
Schools weren't even giving out emails, I think, at that time. So who knows? Who knows?
They're killing me with how old you're making me think you are, and I know you're not. But
I just got started young, I guess, is the way to look at it.
I think you got started young, and also I think it's important for young coaches, right? Because there's some opportunities, young coaches getting jobs, and people thinking because they know basketball, the on-court stuff, that they're ready to be a head coach, and that's not necessarily the case. If you were to start a program, say you're an interim coach for any school, now at 23 years old, what are you kind of mentioned all of them now with the administrative side. What is to be considered, would you go get a coach who knows how to do that, to be able to delegate those types of things? Or where would you go to gather that information at least?
It's funny you ask it that way. That's one thing I was really intimidated of when I was the interim head coach and I was young. I thought an older, maybe more stable presence would. I think I was intimidated by someone that maybe been through it more. And if I had to do it all over again, I don't know what we want to call it, go hire an old head, go hire someone that I can trust, that isn't gunning for my job and isn't gonna accentuate all my mistakes, but is gonna help me avoid those mistakes or see the potholes coming in the road, because they've been through those battles and they've seen those things, and can be like, hey, you may want to go talk to the principal on this one before something happens, or you may want to lighten up in practice today. Like, hey, because my answer at a young age, anytime we weren't good, we didn't go hard enough. Like, and so, I think having someone who's been through the battles a little bit more and seen it and willing to help you and that you can trust is the most important thing you can do as a young coach, whether they're on your staff or not. But someone,
right.
I think on your staff is incredibly valuable, but somebody you can call and have as a resource, and am I doing the right thing here, or what don't I see coming?
Yeah.
So
so important. And I think you used the right words, not to be intimidated by somebody coming in and assisting you and helping you. I think even today, right, with all your experience, you still need a great staff behind you to help get you to the next level or keep you on track. And
there's no doubt about that. I think that's one thing where I've evolved, where I wanted to hire young, energetic guys when I was younger and be around guys like me. And I think as I've evolved, it's important that not everybody's the same. Mindset especially on a staff. You need differing thoughts. You need someone willing to stand up and say, no, like, why are we doing it this way? Like, right. or hey, maybe so-and-so should play a little bit more. Or you need someone willing to have a different opinion and step up with a different point of view.
Awesome. You came from a couple of good situations, right? You came with the Russell White tree is a large tree now, and then Christian's.
I was like the first twig that got broke off Russell White's tree.
Hey, but you started there. Yeah. It was there. Yeah. And then Christian. Right? Christian's tree is ridiculously large at this point too. And how long were you at SEMI? And how did you talked about that experience, just all the things you had to do. What were the most like the top 2 or 3 things that you took from that situation in that part of your journey that you still use today, maybe?
I was at SEMI for 6 years, and if I had it, I mean, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together at the time, but if I had it to do all over again, like family was, like I would sign up to coach with that group any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Like we were always me, Chris Garton, Christian Oran, Ryan Bradshaw, Nick Grandchamp, and then even Dean, who was the coach before Christian, Ryan's dad, was like kind of around as like the godfather of the whole. He'd socialize with us, he'd come to games, and like just that, it was just like our own little fraternity. Like we were just around each other nonstop, families, girlfriends, whatever it was at that time for us. We were all around, and so that camaraderie was unbelievable on that staff. That family environment was huge. But what I learned, like I saw Christian sweep the floor. I saw Christian, wash the backboards, hang new nets. Like there's no job too small if it's your program. And Christian was always great about, he didn't act like it was his program. He was just in the big chair at that time. He'd been a player there. He'd been an assistant there. He had such respect for the guys that came before him and the guys he knew were going to come after him. That he always just kind of viewed himself as a steward of the program. Like he was just the caretaker for that moment. So it was his job to make sure the backboards were clean before the tournament and to make sure, the trash was all out of the bleachers and the locker rooms were clean. And we ran a pretty good tournament. Christian ran a pretty good tournament at that time. 16 teams, which no one, you can't do anymore for various reasons. And really high level competition. And I mean, there was no job too small for Christian. Christian wasn't the head coach that the tournament started, went and sat over here and made everybody else do the work. Everybody had teams they were responsible for getting in the locker room, getting their t-shirt. Christian was on that list with everybody else as the head coach. So I think no job too small. And I know that becomes a cliche, but there's not a lot of people that live that. There's a lot of guys that become head coach. Well, I'm not sweeping the floor. You go sweep the floor. I'm not getting the ball rack. You get the ball rack. Like, something needed to get done. Christian asked, or Christian got it done, but he never played the head coach card, except when it came to driving to Scout. That's the only time he ever did. He made us drive to Scout. He paid for gas, but we had to drive. So no job too small. And I really think Christian did such a good job connecting with the community. Our kids camp was, but it was 5 weeks. It felt like it was the whole summer. 125 kids a week. We had overflow. Christian knew which kids maybe needed a little help that couldn't afford camp. It was, I want to say it was like 9 to 1 every day, and it was like $100 for the week. Like, he kept costs low to help the community in general. He wasn't trying to line his own pockets with that. But even if there were families that couldn't afford it, Christian knew, like, you're not missing basketball camp this summer over $100. Like, you're in. And then it was a way to ID talent in the community back when talent acquisition was a little different. But Christian really built a wall around the whole city of Simi, because even kids from the other side of town were doing whatever they can do to file open enrollment paperwork to get to Simi High to play basketball, and he continued to build that brand. So I think no job too small, and really connecting with your community, whatever that is, whether it's public, private, you have your school community, really diving into that and being a part of it versus, kind of standing on the side waiting for people to come to you and get stuff done.
Man, that's awesome, because we haven't even talked about winning. What was winning like in those 6 years?
We won a lot. There were a couple. I think there's games we all look back on as coaches where we're like, oh man, and this, that, and the other. But we won a lot. I think at one point, I'm not even gonna say I think, I know, because I vividly remember the 07-08 season. We had two guys. We had a bunch of great guys, but we had Lauren Jackson, who ended up going to Pepperdine, and Mike Meza, who went to UCSD. I only say that for frame of reference. Our best player went to Pepperdine. Our second best player went to a non-scholarship D2 at the time. And we were at one point number 17 in the country. We led the state of California in scoring. That was right when Christian decided we were going to play up-tempo and fast and kind of break from the way Simi had played for 30 years previous to that. We didn't have any size anymore. Simi had always had big guys. And so we went totally up-tempo. And people, some of the alumni, including Dean, is a former coach, expressed some opinions like, "Are you guys sure you want to do this?" But that was the genius of Christian, was we're going to have to do something new to continue to succeed at the level we want. And so that 07-08 team, was special. They were invited to my wedding. I've been invited to their weddings and their events. We're all still in each other's lives in some way. Not that we all talk every day. Social media has enabled, us to all stay connected a little bit better. But, even before those guys and after that group there for a couple of years, we had players. Like, anyone that tells you they win without players is, I got a couple words for guys like that, but I'll refrain from here. But we had players, and that's the key part. But developing those relationships to make sure the players wanted to come to Simi Valley still, and Christian was great at that. And then developing those players as they're there, was incredibly important. I don't know what our overall record was in those 6 years there, but I know we won way more than we lost, and I know we scored a ton of points and we had a ton of fun doing it. So, but that 07-08 team really stands out as kind of like I don't want to say the peak, because that means it fell off, but kind of the highlight of a lot of good years there.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know seen both of those kids play post college even, right? And do their thing. So I just had moved back to the Valley in 07. And
Okay.
And I wasn't even into basketball like that. I would see whoever came to the gym, like Larry Drew and the Holiday Brothers.
And we got to know them because Lauren was playing AAU with those guys.
Okay.
And so there was some overlap there with the Campbell Hall, Taft, Simi. Like that was kind of like the big three in the Valley at that time.
Yep.
I think that at least I would say we were. Coach Tate might disagree with his Campbell Hall homerism, but whatever.
Right. So your next step, college after that, right? Went to go coach in the college ranks.
A little bit. Because we had players, we had coaches in the gym. And because Simi had just had players for so long, there was a familiarity when people came to Simi and to recruit. And it wasn't like, it's different now and the rules were different then, but guys would come into practice and then we'd go to lunch or dinner or happy hour, whatever, afterwards with sometimes multiple coaches, which I don't know if that happens anymore, but that can be an awkward dynamic sometimes if those college coaches don't know each other. But that was how great that, Christian and Dean did things at CME, but got to know Rex Walters at USF a little bit through that, and he had a player development spot open, and it was just time, and Christian encouraged me to make that jump at that time. I think Christian and I we'd spent 6 good years together, and it was he was encouraging me to leave the nest. Like, it was, look, like we talked about earlier, you're opinionated, you've grown up, you've done some things. It might be time for you to, put this to, you got to make some decisions here instead of just suggestions type deal. Well, it turned out to be at the college level, and I was lucky, and nobody that knows me ever believes this story, but like the first 4 months at USF, I didn't even say a word in staff meetings. I was just quiet. Like, I didn't know everybody. I didn't know the dynamic. So I was just trying to take it all in. Yeah, see, I can.
That's crazy. Don't believe. I still don't.
I
believe
know.
you.
I know. I'm not saying it stayed that way. Eventually, I felt free. I vividly remember being on a road trip and speaking my mind in a hotel meeting room in Portland, and I was shot down quickly. But got to work with Rex, and Rex coming from the Kansas basketball family, and pretty much everybody on our staff had some Kansas connection except me, and not everybody, but most guys. Luke Wicks was on our staff at that point. His brother Sundance is the head coach at Wisconsin Green Bay now, but Luke was on our staff, and Luke and Sundance had played for Don Meyer in Northern State, so kind of got to hear great stories from Luke about what it was to play for one of the greatest coaches our game's ever had, and then getting to hear all the Kansas stuff and see the Kansas way of doing things, and watch Rex really try to build USF, from literally the program had been shut down not too much before that, and they'd had a couple coaches and tried a couple things, and they brought in Rex, and I don't know that everybody wants to say it, but Rex has the success that USF is having right now is a tribute to those guys. I'm not, Kyle Smith, Todd Golden, that staff there's now have done tremendous jobs, but Rex really did a lot of hard work to lay that foundation in terms of convincing the administration it was worth spending certain money on the program, and maybe gym upkeep and practice facility were worthwhile. Rex had a lot of hard conversations with administration about all that, and then getting to see the recruiting dynamic and all that was a lot of fun. And then playing, Gonzaga is one of the best programs in the country at the time, and St. Mary's had Dellavedova. I think that's the only year St. Mary's won it outright. The Gonzaga didn't share the title in the last however many years, but so those two are BYU had just joined the conference and has a ton of resources. So it was fascinating to watch USF at that time with not a lot of resources, not a lot of investment, not a lot of recent success. I mean, you say Bill Cartwright and Bill Russell to kids, and some kids were just blank stare.
Who were the Bills?
Yeah, so watching that process really saw me how to build a program on another level. And the great thing for me was a lot of it was similar in terms of your values, in terms of your approach to relationships and practice and player development. It was incredibly similar. Now your administration, the dollar amounts are different, and your administration relationships are different, but there was a lot of similarities, which was like refreshing at that time.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of attract situations based on who you are, and so that you kept on falling into these situations, these tight-knit family environments, and you still do. I mean, to this day, it still happened, even though we hated each other before we coached on the same staff.
It's just 1 seconds that I was just really upset about, but that's
story time, guys. I'm an assistant coach at Heritage Christian. We play Chaminade. Okay, this is a great game.
It's not my proudest moment.
This is mine either. I'm a snitch. And so
I would have done the same thing though.
His best player, Josh Hauser, close game, probably within 3 to 5 points, right? With this minute and a half.
It's coming down
super close, and we have, this is when we have Jawan Harris Dyson. We had
McCormaker.
battle, just straight battle. It's probably our highest level competition game that Heritage had played since we had been in. It was our second year on staff there.
And I think that was part of the problem for me. I don't think I was expecting that from you guys. I think egotistically, you guys were still
Baby Heritage.
Yeah,
Baby
like
Heritage.
yeah.
Guys develop. Minute and a half left in the game, and somehow Hauser gets blood on his jersey. And good old me, I notice it right away, and I'm competitive, and I like advantages, and I just, ref, he has blood on his jersey. He has to get out the game. Subs him out. By the time he gets the blood cleaned up, the game's out of reach.
Well, I think what happened too was I think I called one timeout to try to handle the blood, and then we only had one timeout left, and I was like, there was just a lot swirling in my head at that time. But man, I was heated.
He didn't shake my hand.
No, that's not true. I gave you the quick grip and bye. I did not shake your hand.
Did you shake my hand? Or he said something to me. I'm gonna pull the tape up. We have the tape.
Let's pull the tape.
But after that, we became really cool. He was mad at me.
But that's what happens,
awesome.
At least for me in basketball, because I'm an idiot. But like the guys that I've ever been like playing pickup with, or that you have a confrontation with in like an open gym or pickup, that you end up becoming friends with those guys long term.
100%.
And because you can relate, you can understand. Like, and I'm not joking. I would have done the exact. If Juwan had blood on his jersey at that moment, I would have done the exact same thing. And I think what I was most mad about, I probably forgot the med kit that day, and so I'm scrambling, sending an assistant, sending Sean to go get water. I don't know what was going on, but there was so much going on that day. But it was a really, really good game.
That's how me and Ryan met. Game. It was awesome. We've been friends ever since, actually. So
really good friends. Absolutely,
it's been awesome. So yeah, back to how long were you at USF?
I was there for 1 year.
1 year. And so what you experience college, you're in this environment, you're seeing a program trying to develop, and under Rex Walters, an amazing coach. Why go back down to high school?
Well, I didn't.
I don't want to say down to high school. Back to high school.
I get you. I didn't go back to high school just at that point. We had, at the end of that year, with Rex trying to build a culture and all that, I think we had 6 guys transfer. And this was before the portal was really a thing. Guys were transferring was still very much an issue in college basketball, but it wasn't as formalized with the portal and everything. And so we had 6 guys leave. We were graduating our best players, and it was a tough time for everybody there. It was tumultuous. It felt like everybody was angry at everybody, even guys that we all had great. It felt like everybody's on edge. And so I got an opportunity to go to Occidental College and kind of, I don't mean to drop in level, but step up in
role.
Job title. Role. And so Coach Newhall at Oxy, who's was there forever at that point, is still there now. He said, why don't you come here? I'm going to make you the recruiting coordinator, the associate head coach. And I'm like, okay, great, let's go. And really had a fun time at that level. I was there for 3 years. Recruiting a totally different skill set or a skill level, but really academic-oriented kids. Occidental is one of the elite academic institutions on the West Coast, and we couldn't just recruit everybody. And learning a whole different side to college basketball where it wasn't business. It was, I always say D3 is one of my favorite levels I've ever coached at, because for me, it's the perfect combination of college. You can recruit, you can select your team, you can ID the kind of guys you want, the kind of people you want around your program, but there's still such an emphasis on the student-athlete process that, it's not transactional. You can still be very, one-on-one and develop those relationships at that level while still trying to compete and get better and climb the mountain. So, Occidental was a trip at times, an absolute trip, but got to meet some awesome people.
So what were the nuggets that you take from your D3 experience at Occidental that you would, hey, for D3 coaches or somebody understanding different levels of coaching, being at a Division I to a Division III?
I was trying to find my voice at times in coaching, and at every staff you're on, you've got to find your voice and your role and what works. I think at Occidental I vividly remember there was a practice where I was really upset with our guys, and I didn't quite. It was our first year, and we were bad. When I say we were bad, we had some young men that were giving us everything they had. We just didn't have much to back them up, and I didn't quite understand the D3 process. Like, we didn't have a basketball block during the day. We had to schedule practices around our guys' classes, not the other way around.
Whoa.
So there were days like we would practice at 6 a.m. because that was the only time we could get everybody in the gym. Everybody had different class meetings all day. Or there were times we'd practice at 12:30 and some guys can't get there till 1, but then other guys got to leave at 2. And so it's this whole thing. And so I was still learning that process. And there was a morning practice where I was pretty upset with our guys and got loud. I wasn't, I just got loud, just trying to challenge them and trying to break out. And some guys responded and some guys didn't. And Coach and I went to breakfast after practice and we were talking. And he goes, look, man, this isn't D1. This isn't, and he was saying this all respectfully. This wasn't an insult from him. He said, this isn't D1 and this isn't Simi Valley High School, which he had a ton of respect for. He still texts me and emails me like, I got to get a Simi guy. I need a Simi guy on my roster. And he usually does, but he was saying this isn't Simi Valley High School where you have to teach them to play hard or what that is, because these kids know. He goes, 4 of those kids were in the library all night and came straight to practice. So you're like, well, that makes sense now. I understand why maybe we weren't getting his best at 6 a.m. And then that lesson paid off a few years later. We had a young man, Andrew Johnson, that we had recruited from Loyola High School, and he played with Parker Cartwright and the Welshes. Okay. Like, he was the 5th man on that team that most people overlooked. He was kind of a tweener, but I loved AJ the first time I saw him play. Just a great kid, great family. We got him to Oxy, and he's now Oxy's 2nd all-time leading scorer and I think leading rebounder. Like, had a great career there. He's a fire captain up in San Francisco. And AJ just did wonderful things, but AJ was a very quiet kid. And that lesson I learned year 1 at Oxy, AJ was kind of having a couple years later having a rough morning practice, and I'm like, let me talk to AJ before I get on him right here. It's a water break come. AJ, what's up? What's going on? Oh, Coach, I've been in the library before practice for 3 straight nights. I go home and sleep after practice and then go to class. But I'm pulling all-nighters, and I'm like, all right, here's a kid battling. Here's a kid doing everything you would want a young man to do in this situation. There's got to be a better way to teach him to block out than maybe raising my voice right now. There's got to be a better way to get this message through, why we need him to reverse pivot here instead of front pivot here and all that. And AJ, one of my favorite kids I've ever coached. He still thinks I yelled at him too much, but
it's funny because you're whispering now.
I know.
So
I'm trying to, because I'm making sure if AJ sees this. AJ, every time I post a picture of the kids, AJ likes it, so I'm making sure if he sees some of this that AJ knows I love him. I know he knows I love him, but that he knows maybe I held back once in a while, maybe not all the time.
I think that's the best experience you can have, to see that life is more important than basketball, even though you love basketball and your passion and it's what the kids are committed to do, that you have to see the kid for everything they are and everything they're going through. I don't think enough high school coaches, I know enough high school coaches, at least here in Southern California, the kids I know check in with the kids personally enough, especially with today and all the other outside influence are going on. And it's so important to say, hey, how are you doing before I get you.
Right.
And being able to check on their wellness. Just check in. I'm not saying you have to have some therapists. I'm not saying you have to do all these other things. Just check in, because there's this new chart I'm seeing on social media where it says, has a level of work ethic where people are high, don't show up. And they say, no, it's all about consistency. Just show up every day. Give all you can. And that's going to vary what that level is, but that's more important than going super hard and then just falling all the way off.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I've learned, and really D3 is where you're around so many, everybody in D3 is an intellectual in some way, whether it's the professors you interact with, the admissions counselors, the coaches. It's just an intellectual level not that there's not intellectuals at other level, but that's some of the conversations you have sitting next to another D3 coach recruit. I remember sitting next to Coach Anderson from MIT recruiting and complaining that I couldn't get a kid in with a 3.7 and a 15, whatever he had at the time. And the MIT coach went, yeah, I just got a kid with a 4.8 turned down. So everybody's got their whole thing. And I think talking to Coach in Vegas one time, and he had just come off the Final Four at MIT, I think, or Elite Eight, which MIT had never done. and he made a great point. I've seen it said a couple different ways, but kids really aren't different these days than they were 50 years ago in terms of they have the same basic needs, they have the same basic insecurities, they have the same basic desires and social interactions, you know, in school and all that. It's that's relatively unchanged. It's everything around. Social media changes everything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, even before, right before social media blew up, cell phones and instant communication changed everything. Where you didn't have to think before you hit send. You could be emotional, hit send on a text. Now it's on a status, on a post, on whatever, and people don't always think out or come down like we were talking about earlier from that emotional reaction. So the kids have the same needs and all that. It's us as adults, we have to meet them on their level sometimes.
Yes.
And look, I want you to be great at all these things, but you're never going to be great at all these things if you're not doing your homework, if you're not going to class, if you think this stuff isn't important, you're never going to get a chance to do the stuff you really want to do. And
this man right here is Father Ryan. That's the father in Ryan speaking. That's amazing, and that's beautiful, and it's true. And I like that. You know, we say that, oh, the kids are changing, but no, like you're saying, on the basic level, it's all the same. It's the outside influences, and we need to be consistent to do the things to get them through.
I was trying to tell the freshman in my class the other day, like, look, I loved my 4 years at Crespi. Like, I'm self-pride, the whole nine, like the brotherhood. I'm all in. But you could never pay me to be a high school student again. Like, to have to go do that again, like, I would never want to go through that again. You look back and you remember all the stuff going on in your mind and physiological changes and all the stuff going on. Like, and now to add, you know, since I was in high school, you know, instant communication, social media, all that other stuff on top of it, I mean, it's almost unfair to them sometimes. And I think they need to have people say that to them. Like, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to struggle with this. It's okay to understand, how does this fit into my life, or should this fit into my life? And anyway,
It's great stuff. Great stuff. Occidental, then to Chaminade.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I skipped that whole piece.
No. It's yeah. So Occidental, I'm happy. Everything's good. There's a great work-life balance in D3. So I was in Vegas with my brother at Impact.
Oh, okay.
And he came up to me and he said, I think Chaminade job is going to open. Or, you know, would you want it? Would you be interested? I said, yeah. You know, I was getting to the age. I was dating my wife at the time, and that was the one. I knew that was the one early, but so there was going to be some, you know, D3 assistant. I didn't have a lot to offer in terms of, hey, I'm going to be able to provide here. And so the Chaminade opportunity came around, and had some meetings with some key people and interviewed and went through that process. And it was great until it wasn't. And learned a lot from a lot of different angles. There's things I would do the absolute same, that I would dig my heels on, that no, we were doing the right things. And there's things I would do differently, as you know, just time heals all wounds, I guess, for all sides. But you know, there were absolutely some great people there. Getting to coach Josh Hauser and watching his career. He ended up going to the California Maritime Academy years later. He went to the new one. I went to the old one. He scored 1,000 points at Gratis. He got his master's degree from Vanderbilt. And watching what basketball was able to do for him, you know, getting to know, you know, Louis Guerra, who's the principal there now, was just, I think he was a college counselor at the time I was there. And then he went to the dean and the principal, and get to know him at a young age, and watch him, you know, take over as the principal there has been great. But that was just a tumultuous time. I think there was a lot of outside influences that I let affect, maybe not my decisions, but how I approached those decisions, or how I enacted those decisions. And you know, I think both sides learned a lot from that one.
Going from college to the Mission League, right? What even the coach that you had at Occidental kind of mentioned, hey, this isn't kind of high school basketball. Experiencing the Mission League as a, you know, first year coach of the Mission League, at least, what was the difference from all the other experiences?
I think everybody I mean, as an assistant in the league now, I love it, but I think everybody wants to act like it's college basketball. And there are similarities. There are some great talents. There are some great coaches. but it's still high school. Like 6 hours a day, kids need to be in class. Like there's other things they have to do. You're not, and it's not always, we've got modern educational theories, and it's not 6 hours straight like it used to be. And there's breaks in your day and all that, but there's still high school students. Budgets are still, from, I'm not going to get into where I think the hierarchy is in the league budget wise, but it's still not a college athletic, but it's not Occidental's budget,
Right.
which, is a whole different conversation. Your travel, you may travel here and there, but travel's less. I think preparation is very similar because I think you have, Rise, I was leaving USF. Coach Rebo was coming into USF, and I think he's brought that approach to the Mission League. I think he definitely played a role in the Mission League's ramp up. I think he prepares his team like a college team, and his scouting reports and their film sessions are very college-like. I think he prepares his guys for college as well as anybody. The preparation, talent is as good as it's going to get at the high school level across the board. You're going to have 7th, 8th men as younger players that are going to be first team all-league, league MVP type someday.
Yep.
If you're the league MVP of the Mission League, you're probably pretty recruitable. And so I think you see a comparable talent level in terms of everybody in the league's got a guy. Everybody in the league probably has 2 or 3 guys that are going to be the guy or have the ability to be the guy someday. And everybody's got, the ability to execute their game plan, but then if it's not their night or depending on matchup, that they've got to be able to counterpunch. And I think that's what you see in the Mission League more than anywhere else is coach's ability to adapt and counter, not just push the pedal through the floor with what we're doing. Sometimes you got to ease off the gas and change lanes for a sec. So
Now Todd Wilson's been in here and said that. Russell White has been here and said that. Dave Rubio has come and said all those same things, and it's just very consistent of the level that the Mission League operates at. And for other schools who are looking to be at that level competitively in Southern California, those are the differences.
Right, and that's one thing like we would talk about at USF. Like and we joke about it now still in our little USF staff chat that whatever. It's a wide collection of guys that are on staff over various times there, but every time a new coach gets hired in the WCC, the administration goes, "We hired him so we can compete with Gonzaga." And then 3 years later, that coach goes, "Well, here's all the things Gonzaga does that we won't do." And that administration goes, "Yeah, we're not doing." Well, then okay, that's fine, but then you don't. And Mission League is very comparable too. Every high school in this area, the guys are going to get mad at me, but there's not a high school in this area that wouldn't want to play at that level every night at the Mission League level, whether it's coaching, players, school commitment to the program and all that. And that's the part that really differs is school commitment to the program and school's commitment to funding, to support, to, admissions and financial aid are part of this. And that doesn't mean everybody has to be on a full ride or you have to totally compromise your academic standards as a school. But you have to find guys that fit and are on mission that maybe wouldn't have been in your blueprint if they weren't an athlete. But that's okay. If that's their avenue into the school, if they're on mission and they're going to buy in, great. Like, who cares what door they enter through?
Yes.
Because we're all exiting through the same door at graduation. So, I think that's the key part that most schools don't realize. Oh, yeah, well, and no one in the Mission League is going to run the table. It's not like the Mission League is going to run the table in non-league every year. There's losses here and there.
Right.
And I think some administrations get really geeked up when, we beat so-and-so, and we beat a Mission League team, and we beat this. Okay, you beat them on one night. You're not beating them the other 364 days with everything they're doing to build that program and build that team and build those players and build that staff.
No, I think that's super important, especially for the smaller schools that are outside of the Mission League that want to compete on that level, to hear how much, not only does it impact the basketball program directly when you give them resources and access to things for kids that wouldn't be there, kids who can't afford it but have the talent and qualify for the school, and open those resources, but also how it grows the school itself. I think that's the biggest thing, is like the impact of sports in school goes way past the basketball court or the football field or whatever it is. It builds the culture of the school, the population, and drives just more enrollment. And so investing into something as small as sports, because it on the wide scale of things, it's a small investment for the return that you get for it.
Absolutely, and that's when I said there was it's like similarities I learned at the college level. One of the great things at USF, so when the administration was trying to get better, and we had our issues with it as a staff at the time, but when we went to Gonzaga to play, literally 100% of our athletic administration went. And our AD took everybody out there. And Gonzaga opened the doors, and they had some meetings like, how do you guys do things? Why do you do things this way? And USF was really trying to evolve. And I learned two things through that process, just kind of hearing some conversations and being around. One, Gonzaga said when they went on their first tournament run in '99, everyone was like, well, applications had to explode from all over the place. And they said, yeah, but we were always a really good school. We always got nationwide applications. What it did at Gonzaga was make the in-state kids go, okay, I'll go to a little small school with no football team. Like, I don't have to go to UW. I don't have to go to Washington State to have a great college experience. I can go to basketball games here at Gonzaga. So it really opened the local public's eyes to Gonzaga. And two, they said the athletic administration was telling Art that they had a school administration that really got on board with they were okay with athletics can be the front door to the school. Doesn't have to be the only door.
Right.
Doesn't have to be for everybody, but it can definitely be your greatest advertiser in terms of name recognition, in terms of brand, in terms of these days someone going, well, what's that school that just went to this, and just looking it up on, oh man, this place looks gorgeous. Let's visit, let's apply. Like, and I think when you bring that down to the high school level, obviously most schools in our league aren't taking kids from all over the country, but making sure you build your
sorry,
making
a little slight there, but it's the truth. But it's okay.
I'm just saying most aren't. There's some that are.
Yes,
and that's their. I don't know what their inner workings are.
Right.
And I don't know how they do it. And if that's on brand for their school,
perfect.
Great.
Yes.
I know I have a naturally sarcastic tone, and it may come out as a slight, and I'm sure I'll get some.
I didn't catch it at first, and it was like,
but if that's their process, great for them. I know at Crespi that's not going to be our process. Our process is going to be different. But for us, that Gonzaga statement of we really want all the kids, from the west side to the valley to Ventura County, where we can kind of draw from. We want to be an acceptable destination because and you may watch our football team play one time. You may watch our baseball team play one time and just go, I really like how coach handled things. I really liked how their players handled adversity. I just liked their attitude on the floor. It was, that's where I want my son to be. And great, that's what I think Crespi's working to. Our president, our principal, our athletic director are they've done an unbelievable. I'm just in my first year back home now, but just getting back to sit back and watch and not have to be in certain conversations, but hearing the results of certain conversations. They've done such a great job advancing the brotherhood brand, if you will, and the just what Crespi is, and making sure that. I mean, there were people when I was in high school. You go to Crespi, where's that? Like, people in Thousand Oaks, Crespi, what's that? And I don't think there's a person in Thousand Oaks that doesn't know about Crespi now, and maybe that's just egocentric for me. But
no, it's a true. I mean, even with kids that I have in core who are looking for a high school, Crespi's always an option because of you guys take care of business, you guys take care of your student athletes in every way, and they're in a good position to be prepared for college there, and so.
I think that's the biggest thing. Dr. Joyce, our principal, came in a few years ago and really got us back academically and is continuing to push the academic mission without. Dr. Joyce is great at balancing, like, obviously he's the principal. Academics are going to be first and foremost, and no one will ever say different. But there's a lot of principals that come in and do that and sacrifice other things. Right. They advance one mission at the cost of another, and that's the exciting thing for me being back, besides being home, besides getting to be an assistant and have different relationships and different dynamics with staff and athletes and students. Just watching the mission advance and the pride in all areas of Crespi has been unbelievable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Skipped a couple phases here. We're already talking about Crespi. We'll get through it quick here. So Chaminade next year. Doesn't work out at Chaminade. We'll just leave it there. Move on. You come over to Heritage Christian for a year, the place that we caught a blood jersey on you and a minute and a half left, and come on the staff with Paul, and where we really connected. And,
Absolutely.
what was your experience like at Heritage? And
that was a whole new dynamic for me, because I became friends with Christian Orand as I coached with him. We knew each other before, but we weren't really good friends until we started working together every day. Paul, I had been friends with. We had been young assistants, like kind of coming up, very similar paths, D3 assistants here, and we had a lot of similarities, and we'd been friends and within basketball and socially. And then getting to connect with you on staff and that dynamic was awesome. I mean, I was still a wounded animal at that time in a lot of ways, trying to figure out, like, am I going to do this? Like, is this? I was second guessing a lot of things. It was therapeutic for me to be around people that cared about the game and cared about their program, but also cared about me. And that was a new dynamic for me in the last couple of years at that point. And I remember you and I having some conversations about all kinds of stuff, like we'd start on basketball and veer into other things, and really seeing, okay, this is my vehicle to develop. I want these types of relationships in my life, but this is my vehicle for it, and I was pursuing the right path with this, and so getting to do that, and I really thought if you had told me and we talked about this, like when I was at Heritage at that time, you couldn't have told me that however many years later it is now that I wouldn't still be there as an assistant. Like, that really was all I wanted to do at that point, was just be around good people that did the right things the right way, that I enjoyed working with, and that I could trust, and that I knew counted on me and trusted me. That's really all I wanted to do. And I remember vividly, like, that last week or two of the season, there were some developments happening in the coaching world, and you were like, nah, you're gone. And I was like, dude, I'm not. I'm here. And I remember when we lost our last game, you were like, man, it's been real. I was like, what are you, like, I haven't even interviewed. Like, this isn't done. And you were like, no, you're gone. And I said, come on, man. I said, you kicking me out? And you said, no. And so, and I ended up leaving. You were right. I was wrong. Again, that's twice now. But got to go to Moore Park and build that brand. And I think we did an incredibly good job with a great staff, great group of families, great group of kids. Were we a Mission League level team? No. But that wasn't our goal either. That wasn't our goal while we were building it, and got to meet just some awesome people. And at a time in my life where Elizabeth and I were having kids, and watching those families wrap their arms around our budding family was just something if I'd stayed at Heritage, it'd be different. I wouldn't have that, but I get to tell my son stories like about Drake London on Sundays watching football, and hey, I coached him, and I can text him right. It might take him 2 weeks to text me back, but but Troy Anderson, Noah Matera, Nate Ward, Tyler Odom, who was actually a freshman when we were at Chaminade, came over, like just Brandon Shores, Heath Nepstead. I'm going to leave guys out, unfortunately. I can't name them, but those guys just, we're all still connected. The group chat flares up every now and then.
You guys built something really special really quick. You can see, like you said, the family dynamic, the community piece, development. You guys were on the court, training, trying to get better, coaching a future pro was probably amazing. I mean, watching Drake, like, you guys came to our gym a lot for games.
Yeah,
and stuff,
we were
which was awesome.
Between summer league and
summer league,
all that. Yeah,
man, watching that guy just do whatever he wanted to on the court. I'm sure that's
people still roll their eyes at me when I tell them, if Drake had chosen basketball as his primary focus a little earlier,
lottery pick.
He had the talent to do it at the pro level.
Yeah.
He was just in a situation where maybe he wasn't given access to what he needed basketball not from mom and dad. Mom and dad were great, and did everything. And Robert Eichhardt played a huge role in his development. I can't skip over that part. but just in terms of year-round basketball development, he just kind of missed a key piece. But man, he made up for it quickly. Like once we came in and said, "Here's what's happening," like he didn't miss a beat, and he almost like there were times he'd be like, "Dude, we're shutting it down today. Like you got to go to passing league, you got an SC visit coming up, you got this, you got that, you got whatever. We got to shut it down. We got to be smart about this." And so he was, he's all world for a reason.
Yeah, no, awesome, man. Great time just watching you in that head role, running your program. Man, you have a gift with that in starting stuff, you know, and you know, I know we're all on a journey, right? With
Absolutely.
this coaching thing, and so, you know, from Moore Park, then, you know, things don't work out in that situation as well.
I mean, it just came down to, you know, family need. I was working at Impact Basketball during the day, and Joe was great as a boss at Impact, but like, it started to be unfair to Joe. Joe, we got a tournament. I'm out at 11. I promise I'll, you know. And Joe was great. I got my stuff done. I didn't, but to run a high school program, it just takes so much. And what we were trying to build at Moore Park, it takes so much. And to not have an on-campus job breaks that down quick, you know, a little more quickly than it will some other places. And so it just wasn't going to continue to move forward the way we wanted without, you know, an administrative commitment to those kind of things. And so, you know, jumped to Santa Clara for 1 year, which, you know, one of the proudest programs in the state. School and program is falling on some tough, but trying to restore a foundation there. And Coach Latt, who took it over, was with us at Moore Park, was with us at Santa Clara, has taken it over now, and I think is doing a phenomenal job. I mean, I was just talking to him 2 days ago. We talk all the time. Our staff chat at Moore Park still. He's kind of the head coach in that text now, which I'm good with. But, you know, he asked a lot of questions. They're building off that at Santa Clara. I think he'll get it back there. He's a local guy up there. I think that's important in that community. Yeah. You know, but a chance to come home to Crespi, you know, it took me 25 years to come back home, but a chance to be back home at Crespi and be on campus every day as a teacher in a class that is not, I mean, teaching freshman seminar, we get to work on time management, goal setting, study skills, which really
stuff that matters, man.
Really, you're trying to teach those as life skills. It's not what you're studying; it's how you're studying that we're trying to make important. We tell kids, you know, it's not the grade you get that defines you; it's how you get your grade that is going to say more about you. And so trying to work through that process with young men that. I laugh because I'm like, dude, you guys don't even know. I see me and all my classmates sitting in front of me right now, like and they're like. Whatever, old man, like, you know, and some of them get it, and some of them don't, some of them laugh, and we have some good times, but then, you know, I appreciate you connecting me with Coach Fisher, who has been just unbelievable as a person, as a resource, as a coach, has done a phenomenal, forget, like we talked about in high school, it's all the stuff over here before you get to the court. And just all this stuff off the court with me, he's been phenomenal, teaching me things, showing me new things, new avenues, and all that. And then on the court, being able to learn and you know, offer some opinions on, you know, he's got not some high level, he's got the highest level experience as a player and coach, and did it unbelievably well. And to learn from that, but to also have him be like, hey. So what's a 35-second shot clock like? Like, not that he doesn't understand the shot, but like, what those 11 seconds, how does that shape your offense? How does that shape your thought process? And that sounded bad. Like I'm saying he didn't understand the shot clock. It was,
no, it's a
what different
level.
can we accomplish in that 11 seconds? Do we need to be in motion first and then into a set? Or is it set, then motion? Or is it somewhere in between? Or what should we be doing? And having those conversations has been fascinating. And then getting to ask him, like, you know, questions about Kobe and the pros, and I try to pick my spots and not bombard him with that all the time, but he's been just open arms, and I think he's great for, you know, it's tough to be a key part of the Crespi community without having come up through it or around it, or there's so many people that work there that are from the Crespi community, and I think Derek has you would have no idea that he didn't come up through the Crespi. He embraces it. He loves it. He wants more of it. He wants to build. He wants to be a part. Like, it's unbelievable to watch. And as an alum, like, forget coaching with him. As an alum, it just makes me so proud that we have somebody sitting in that chair that gets it, that wants the Crespi brand to be better and better every day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the biggest takeaways I get from Derek whenever I talk to him is he's not afraid to ask questions and continue to get better. Like, coach at the highest level and coming down to high school in California it's an adjustment, a definite adjustment. But he's like, hey, how do I do this? And he is open to learning from you just as much as
But
you
that
are
frustrates
to
me.
him.
I sat
right?
next to him on a bus ride. We had to chaperone a field trip, and I sat next to him on a bus ride, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get some good Lakers stories today. I need some Phil Jackson stuff. I need some Kobe. I need some Shaq. I need all this. And we're sitting next to each other on the bus, and I go, ready to ask a question. He goes, so coach, in high school, and he just starts peppering me with high school questions, and I'm like, coach, like, I'm sitting here to ask you questions, not the other way around. Everything from, like we talked about, from fundraising to shot clock differential to officiating to, travel to meals to, I think one of the reasons he's so intelligent is because he's, like you said, he's not afraid to ask questions of anybody and learn and be open to what those answers are. He's not asking questions just to check the box and go, okay, I made him feel good by asking him questions about his experience. No, he's evolving his approach and his, every new answer he gets from every source, he's constantly evolving and growing as a leader, and it's awesome to watch happen.
So you've lit up since we started talking about you in this position. I don't know if you noticed that, right? Your energy has changed. It was already great, but what is that? Being, an assistant again at your, alma mater, and, being with somebody who's coached and played at a high level. Somebody I'm sure you watched, and
Absolutely.
we all love what Derek did for the Lakers, right?
Unbelievable.
And so what is that? What is that light that's shining out of you right now, being in this position?
I think I was talking to my wife about this the other day. Professionally, I've never felt more at peace in my life, and I didn't realize it. Like, there was always, coaching can create. My wife jokes that the only people that gossip more than teenage girls are basketball coaches. She hears the calls, well, who's doing this and who's transferring where and which coach is leaving for this spot and who's doing this.
That's facts.
And so my wife says that all the time, right? And so I think part of that can create some anxiety too, and you're always worried about what's next, and whether it's next season, next job, next whatever. You're always worried about what's next. And I think this position I'm in now, I'm so lucky. One, it combines, outside of my wife and my two kids, it combines two things I love more than anything, basketball and Crespi. And so I'm at peace with that when those two things, and having two sons that, obviously I've been a lot of places, and hopefully that move curve slows down a little bit, but getting to bring them around Crespi and have them be a part of that brotherhood. And we see it now. Like, I see Peyton White on our team, who dad was a phenomenal high school coach and now a great college coach. But I remember going to Crespi games as an alum, just checking in here or there, and Peyton White being a little 5-year-old running around on the floor, maybe it wasn't 5, I may have the dates wrong, but Peyton being young and being around. And now, like, Peyton has such a connection to Crespi and to that brotherhood because he grew up around it. And I think for my boys, that's a similar experience for what I envision. But being able to combine two things I care about so deeply, and then getting to do it at the level the Mission League and the Crespi are at right now. And our young men, everything else aside, the kids we have, the young men we have on our team, it's a special group. And I'm not going to start naming names. I'll name Peyton only because he's so deeply connected historically to the program. But every young man on our team has, just like everywhere, but we've got some personalities on our team, and we got some guys that kind of lay back and then pick their spots. And I'm starting to see that develop a little bit more. And knowing that I sat in those same seats and wore that same jersey, if you will, and had some of those same battles, it's special to me because I know where this can take them. And there's a young man on our team who said, Coach, I'm not going to play college basketball. I know I'm not. And I said, okay, why? And he said, do you think you can make a call? I got into Kansas already. I'm putting some pressure on my Kansas people here. I got into Kansas already. I got a little academic money. I want to go to Kansas. Do you think you can call some guys and see if I can be a manager at Kansas? I actually was on the phone on the way here talking about it. And Kansas has their own process and all that. And Coach Fisher's connected at the highest level, and he could probably, push that across the goal line easily on his own. But getting to watch that young man, and I'm looking at it going, man, 25 years ago, I felt like that was me in a lot of ways. Like, how do I stay connected to this? How do I get to explore this? But I'm not going to play at Kansas. Like, they haven't called yet, and watching this young man go through that, and then watching our team evolve. We got a young team for the most part, and watching them eke their way through high school a little bit and then start to gain some confidence, and basketball playing a role in that in terms of you can make a big shot. You may be able to walk down the hallway standing up a little higher, and this, that, and the other. And watching that evolve from a Crespi brotherhood standpoint and having been through that is just awesome.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
No, that's awesome, man. You feel like you're in a good space, man.
I do.
I haven't seen you smile this much in a long time. Seriously, man. You look, it's a great fit. What's next for Coach Ryan Moore?
I want to hang out with this coaching staff. We have, Coach Spino's on our staff, and Coach Parks is on our staff, and Coach DeCourcy, our JV coach, and we just hired a freshman coach, Coach Silverman, who are like, I see a lot of, like, you live long enough, you start to see some patterns, and not that everything's cookie cutter, but I see a lot of similarities to our group at CME. Like, we're starting
basketball junkies, man.
Yeah, we're starting to spend more time around each other. The group text gets a little more animated on certain things, and I've known Clint for forever, and maybe not known it as well as we do now, but and obviously Clint's not afraid to share his opinion either, and so we shared some opinions. And
Clint, need you on the show.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. But to go through the process with this group of young men on the team and then our staff, I don't know what's next. For the first time in my career, I'm not worried about what's next. I'm confident whatever's next, this will have prepared me for. I'm not in a rush to leave Crespi in any capacity, though, just because you put a different title next to your name. Like, I've done that, and the title doesn't define anybody's ability. The title doesn't define your ability as a coach. I think how you approach your job matters. And so if Derek wants to rock out for 30 years, like let's do it. Like let's build this thing into a national brand, and being able to support that mission, like let's do that. So awesome. You are where your feet are.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Awesome. We didn't talk about it much. We'll kind of transition to our next segment as we talk about this, working at Impact, right? Impact being, one of the first player development programs in the country with Joe Bunasar, and what he's done. To me, he's the godfather of player development, man. First one to actually put it together in a business-like manner and working with some monsters.
Unbelievable roster.
Absolute monsters. And you leading the programming and recruitment and administration of that. So we're going to transition to our segment of My Rushmore.
Okay.
So your top 4 trainers.
So I got 3 layups on this one. I'm lucky. So you mentioned Joe kind of being the founding father of player development and coming out of Coach Knight in Indiana, and that was a thing, and IMG to Impact and all that. Joe's Joe's right there. Joe Bunasar, number 1 on the Mount Rushmore. Let me get through the second one. I got to go with my brother. I'm a little biased, but I think my brother found a way to work for Joe, carve out his niche in the space, develop relationships. Is still doing some stuff on the side with some guys. I may be a little family biased, but I think he did an unbelievable job and had an unbelievable roster as well. Now, I'm going to catch heck for this third one here, and you're going to roll your eyes. But my third one, and I've told you this one-on-one.
Go ahead, I'm preparing.
I've told you this one-on-one. Todd Wilson.
I ain't going to roll my eyes.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here in front of you. If anybody would have asked, I I have told you from day one, I respect how diligently you approach your work. I respect the relationships you're able to build, because I think the work you do with kids, young men, is, you wouldn't be able to get young men to reach the levels you've gotten them to reach without the relationships. You probably, basketball-wise, could have gotten them to a certain level, but you go so much beyond, I think, where even they know where they can go when they first get to you, and the relationships and all that, and the continued relationships after, they progress and becomes a summer workout thing, or they're off playing in college or playing in pros. Those relationships are so strong. They're still seeking your advice at that point. The fourth one's a little tough. There's a couple names that are floating around in my head that I'm not sure which way to go. But based on our previous conversation and my tip of the cap to the pump camps back in the day, back when camps were like workout all morning, play in the evening, not just 3 days of games. And I don't have a relationship with this guy. I don't know him. I have friends that know him. I follow him on social media. I went to all his optional workouts in the mornings at pump camp. He doesn't know I exist, I'm sure. Aubrey McCreary. I just watched the work he's done with guys, and I tend to like guys. You, Joe, my brother, and Aubrey, like, you're not limelight seeking guys. The limelight finds you guys, and my brother does a little bit better job hiding from it than anyone I know.
Than anyone in the world.
I mean,
let me just tell you about this guy, Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Where do we? I mean,
Serge Ibaka,
Serge,
KG, and Chauncey and those guys.
Like crazy NBA roster, and just stayed out of the way, but just knows the game inside and out.
He really does.
An amazing player developer, but
no argument. And so that's kind of like, from a guy that's approached myself, who's approached the game from a different angle in terms of coaching team all the time. You deal with some player development guys that have very strong opinions about what coaches do and don't know. So I think it's the guys that are willing to work from a coaching side too, guys that will work with player development guys, and then player development guys that will work with coaches, and not just the second their guy gets pulled from a game, or the second their guy doesn't get everything they want, it's all bad, and we need to transfer, or that coach doesn't know what he's doing, or we need to switch AAU teams, and vice versa. The second you put somebody in a game and the shot doesn't go down, or the move doesn't get made, or they don't execute properly, well, the easiest thing is a coach say, "Oh, if you weren't doing triple spin, triple combo, cone drill, this,
Ryan,
that,
the amount of kids that tell me that coaches say, you're doing that core prep stuff." And this is from all the high schools that they go to. So coaches, I hear you. Yeah. I just don't care. But
I don't know anyone on our staff that would say core prep in that manner. But it's too easy to lump all coaches into one side and all player development guys. Right. We're all coaches at the end of the day anyway.
Yes.
And I think that's become too segmented. But if we're having this conversation, then we're all working. We all want that kid to be the best he can be.
That's it.
Maybe for different reasons, maybe for different purposes, maybe to different end goals at times. But if we all want that young man to be the best he can be, then we all need to operate from a place of
unity,
understanding, and unity. Yeah, absolutely.
No, it brings me to a quick commercial break. So this is what we do. So I'm building this platform to talk about my consulting side with the basketball firm, right? And so that's what we're doing. We show parents that when you're developing your kid, you have to have a board of directors. It's not just one person controlling your career all the way out. Your head coach, your AAU coach, your trainer, your performance trainer, your academic advisor, and your camp have to be on the same page. There should be a meeting at least once a quarter, once a year, whatever it is, to understand, make sure everybody's on the same page about getting you on your journey to where you go. I call that your board of directors.
I like that.
That direct these areas of your life so you can be pushed to your goals and your dreams. If they're not on the same page, you're going to be pulling. And that's what happens to a lot of kids, especially at a younger age, that, their parents want them to be number one in the country in 8th grade instead of number one in the country in 12th grade when it actually matters.
That's a whole conversation. We lost a kid at Chaminade because I told his parents, I don't care if you're the number one freshman in the country. Like, that's great. Like, but the goal is to have you be the number one senior in the country and have you hold all the cards and have all the choices you want 4 years from now. because none of these ranking things mean anything now. They don't really, they mean a lot more later.
Did that kid ever get to number 1 in the country?
No, he did not.
Okay.
But he's a pro.
Yeah, no, I actually know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
I remember that conversation. I was in on that conversation, and I didn't know you were talking to him because I would have helped. That was before I knew you, though.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Nevertheless, thank you for that. So my 4 top trainers. All right, my 4 top trainers. This is going to be. I love you all, just so you know. But my 4, no order. Chris Johnson. He's probably the one who mentored me the most in this game to show me. I understand basketball on a whole different level because of how he trains. Taught me client-player relationship at the highest level, how to, communicate with pros and their agents and all those types of things. I've been in those environments for a long time, but it wasn't until I was with Chris to understand how to, just fit into that environment. So.
Crespi on the short. I mean, you can't argue with the work. I don't know Chris.
Yeah.
But you can't argue with the work at all.
No, and he'll be on the court from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and work. Like, he's just a grinder. He loves what he does. And he loves it more than me. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm out at 12. You keep on going though. Like, I'm good. But shout out to Chris for sure. Drew Hanlon. I'm just me and Drew talk like on social media. I have not met Drew, which is crazy because he's in LA all the time.
Drew, get on the podcast.
You're like the 4th person to tell him that. He's going to come on one day whenever we get a hold of him.
He's a St. Louis guy. My whole family's from St. Louis. We'll see if we can track him down.
There we go. So I got a lot of people working on that one. So Drew, just his communication. I think my skill in training is my communication. I think I'm able to communicate really well and break high-level ideas down to middle school kids. I think that's why I'm so successful in this age, because of my communication. But I learned it from Drew, watching every single one of his videos he put on early on. I listened to just how he spoke, terminology, and those things. He was a mentor for me without even knowing it, with how he communicates the game. So Phil Handy, who's a coach. He's an assistant coach, but he is a player developer.
That's probably one I left off my list only because of the personal bias that played a role in my list.
It's okay. If you put me above Phil, I'm not mad at you, but I don't believe you.
Well, maybe my family bias.
Yeah, right, either way. But Phil Handy just I think he's developed a philosophy on training that it just works. Mm-hmm. It just works. Him and Chris came up together, and so
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so they connected back in the day, some Nike camp or something like that, and the way they train is very, very similar. The terminology they use and the philosophy they use is very similar. Phil's in the NBA doing that route. Chris is doing the independent route. And Phil's he's building his 94 foot and on his independent side as well, but. Phil Handy and he's an open book. You ask him questions, he's going like those guys are the truth. The 4th,
cut list time.
Huh?
Cut list time. You got to draw a line here.
The 4th, it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to say myself. And there's a reason why. Because most of these guys are they'll be on the court all day. I'm not that kind of trainer. Okay. I'm not as committed to being on the court as much as them. Now, I'm committed to knowing the game and teaching the game very well, but I'm a 3 hours a day kind of guy when it comes to training. Trying to think here. I don't even know. This is tough. It's a lot of good ones. I'm going through my little catalog here. There's a lot of good ones.
I just wanted to put you on the spot with this one.
Go ahead. You have
no. I'm just saying in terms of the
who I'm
concept.
Keeping off. Yeah, who I'm keeping off. No, it was a very good question. So those 3 were easy. This one's, like you said, I think Joe Bunazar, overall, right? Just what he's done for the game. Pre-draft process, he's created the protocol for what pre-draft looks like and preparing guys for the NBA. Once again, terminology, how to connect with people, his relationships within basketball, everybody I talk to, like, oh yeah, I used to work at Impact. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, like his tree is ridiculously, and he's still doing it. He's still doing it. So Joe Blumenthal,
Okay.
another guy who gave me opportunity and, got me to this position. So
Absolutely.
absolutely. So this is where we flip the script. You are now the interviewer. 2 questions, could be about anything.
Okay. 2 questions about anything. Well, you and I, over the last 4 or 5 years, our conversations have shifted.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the biggest change in your approach to coaching since you became a father? If
Since I
any.
became a father. So it's interesting. So as soon as I had my daughter, I stopped coaching. I stopped coaching on the sideline,
Right.
at least. That's when I stopped. And so sideline coaching, I don't know. My approach to, coaching, training, developing, I'm a lot more understanding to parents who are just so committed to their kids' process, because I'm like that with my daughter. Anything my daughter's doing, I have something to say about it.
Absolutely.
I just said this on the last show. It's funny. It's just like anything she does, yes, that's my daughter, so I get to say something about it. So respecting that. Before, I'm like, you're a parent, you don't know anything. Like, you're a doctor, don't tell me how to train your kid in basketball. But it has nothing to do with their profession. It has more to do with their invested interest to the love of their life. And so, and made me realize I don't want to coach my daughter. I don't, because I love her too much, and I'm going to be tough. My son has no choice. I expect him to be tough. My daughter is I'm going to be very delicate and let her. She's going to start basketball in March, a little clinic or whatever at Shepherd Church. And I asked her, I was like, do you want me to coach you? She's like, no. She said, no, I want to play with the kids. That's what she told me. And I'm like,
Done.
I'm just sit there and be a parent. And if she asks for help one day, that's when I'll start coaching her. So just understanding that dynamic of caring for your kids so much that you want to be involved, even if it's something that you know nothing about. Like, I just understand that more, so I have more patience for the parents, and it's improved my communication with parents. And I think that's why parents lean on my opinion and my recommendations for them, because I have a level of understanding, and still not to the level of them, because I don't even have a kid playing sports like that yet. So
watching that evolve will be fun.
Yeah.
So then that leads to my second question. Then, will there be, or has it been ruled out? Will there ever be a return to sideline coaching for Coach Todd Wilson?
There will be. That is, it's official.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. Literally this past weekend. I will return to a sideline somewhere, somehow.
Somewhere, okay.
Somewhere, somehow. Either high school or AAU in some level. High school only. Not dealing I love my middle school space. What I'm doing, I'm keeping it there.
But I'm sure you've had opportunities at the college level. I'm sure there's been feelers.
Yeah, I mean, I shoot them down so fast that I don't know.
Okay.
Right, and so I tell people, oh no, I'm not coaching. But I'm not interested in college, because I know the commitment that takes, and so I want to be with my kids while they're growing up. And that's why I've stayed away from high school as well. Like, these 4 or 5 months right here are a grind, and I'm sure you're feeling it, and your wife feels it. Like,
Yep.
Not being able to be home in some evenings and those long nights, take a toll. And as you know, my son, he's a handful, and so I need to be there.
We share that in common.
Yeah, I need to be there. So, but no, if I had the itch, I can feel it. I know it's the natural progression of a player developer to become a coach. That is my belief. That you have to. That's the next elevation, is to be a coach and to have a program to develop kids and to have that family environment, to create a culture, all those things that I do, with core, but I want to do it in a more intimate level and see what I'm capable of. So, yeah.
There it is.
You got the exclusive, Ryan Moore, with the
There it
interview
is.
with the exclusive.
Someone else gonna have to break the news on when and where, but
Right. Well, no, it's nowhere yet. Yet. That doesn't mean you start calling me coaches, but you can if you want to. So that's the show, man.
There it is.
You have a 24-second shot clock. That's your camera there. Let the people know where they can find you, and anything you want to, just say to the people. Any message that you have for people?
One, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a great relationship with Todd Wilson. So those of you that are watching this that are going through his program or considering being a part of his program, I would send my sons to play for him any day of the week. Absolutely. I look forward to being able to do that someday. Obviously, I feel the same way about the brotherhood we're building at continuing to build at Crespi and being a part of that again. I'm not hard to find on social media. I'll pop off every now and then. I try to keep it a little more vanilla now that I've got kids. But I'm not hard to find. Anything I can do, young coaches out there, it's a passion of mine to help you guys. If you reach out, text, email, Twitter, DM, Instagram, DM, whatever, reach me through Todd. More than willing to sit down, offer any advice or any help I can as an avenue into the game.
Perfect, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Peace.